In this video, I'm going to show you how to do break even. It's a chart basically. Oh well, break even is more of a concept than just a chart that shows you the break even point, which is the point where the amount of money you're spending on your stock and running your business is matched by the amount of money you're taking from the till. And everything after break even, which is this little area here, is called profit. Anything below break even here is called loss. So break even is the point where you're covering your costs with the money you're making from your business. Okay, really simple concept. The three lines in the chart, and I'll explain each of those once we've made it. Okay, so to begin, my break even is based on my fixed costs and my variable costs. So fixed costs are the individual costs um, that need to be paid before we even start selling. So they don't change in accordance with how many items you sell. They're just there. You've got to spend this money on these things. For example, having a food blender for a smoothie stall, having posters in advance of running the smoothie stall, and having aprons for the people who are running it. So those things don't change. They don't vary with how many items I sell. They're just fixed. I've got to spend £10 on aprons. I've got to spend 23.99 on a blender. That's just something I'm stuck with. Right, so what I can do then is I can go to this wonderful little website called Experian, where they do a break-even calculator for me. I'm just going to refresh the page here just to show you how it works. I'm going to take my total of my fixed costs, which is 23.99 plus 4, so 27.99 plus 10 is 37.99. So I put 37.99 in here. Okay, and then it's asking me to put something called a variable cost in. So this is your fixed costs that don't change at all, regardless of how many items you're selling. Sort of like down payments almost, or like fixed costs. That's exactly what they are. They're fixed. Variable unit cost then is each individual smoothie I'm going to sell. How much do the ingredients combined cost me? So I've put 0.77 per unit, 77p per unit here. How have I come up with that figure? Well, basically, let's look at the apples. I've got £1.50 bag of apples, and there's 6 apples in there. Now, I'm using only half an apple per smoothie. I'm using half a pear per smoothie, half a banana, etc., 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 and 1 cup to put it all in. So I want to work out how much that half of 1 apple costs, add it to how much half a pear costs, add that to how much half a banana costs, etc., etc. So £1.50 for a bag of 6 divided by 6 is obviously 25p. Divide that again by 2 because it's half an apple, I come up with 12.5. I've just rounded that up to 13 for ease of use. And then obviously I've done the same for the pears, bananas, grapes, coconut, etc. And I've ended up with a cost per smoothie for each of these items. I've added them all together and I've got 77p per unit. Okay, so I'm going to take that 0.77 and put it in here. Now, from my market research prior to doing this, I came up with a sales price that people agreed on. It was either £1.50 or £2. They were both quite strong contenders. So I'm going to put £1.50 in. Obviously, if I'm selling each smoothie for £1.50, the raw ingredients are costing me 77p. I should be making a fairly tidy profit. We're talking 73 pence, something like that. It's not too bad. So let's have a look if that's being offset then by any of these costs. So what I do is I calculate my costs and I get these 3 lines, and it always tells me you've got to sell 53 smoothies if these are your costs and that's what you're selling the product for in order to break even, in order to reach this point here, this little point where the red line and this blue line are meeting. We'll ignore that line for a minute. So where these 2 lines are meeting is what we call break even. Now, just to explain these 2 lines to you, all right, we need to look at the axis firstly. The y-axis is costs, individual prices involved, so £20, £40, £60, etc. The x-axis is how many items are being sold, individual items. So, for example, for 40 items, the total cost is here, and it looks like 60 quid. So 40 items, total cost is 60 quid. How have we worked that out? Well, we've looked at 0.77 times 40, which is this figure here, on top of our fixed cost of 37.99. So that fixed cost will go the whole way through, and we add however many smoothies being sold multiplied by the amount it's costing us to make each of those smoothies, and that's why this line here is going up an angle from this line. Obviously, the total cost is obviously, as I said, the variable added to the fixed. So if we're selling 50. Let's have a look at a nice straightforward figure. 79 smoothies being sold. Still going to cost us 37.99 in fixed costs. We need to add 79 times 0.77 on top of that there to get that. Okay, so that's what the total cost is. And where the total cost and revenue meet is the break-even point. As I said, revenue is 0. Well, it's for example, revenue on 40 smoothies is 40 times 1.5. So 40 times 1.5 is there. And obviously that's in the region of loss as opposed to loss, break even, profit. This is where you want to be with your business. This is where you don't want to be because you're not even covering the costs of running the business. So if I'm selling 40, I am making a loss. I'm not covering the fixed costs, and on top of that, then I'm not able to cover the variable costs as well. So 40 is a poor figure for sales for me. I need to be selling 53. That's a problem because I'm running a young enterprise business in school, and that's going to be quite a high figure to meet in order to just cover my costs. I want to be profitable. So I need to look at what you can do firstly then is you can copy that if you have a similar issue to me, put it in your piece of work and do an explanation of that. Just to say, look, these figures are unworkable. Yeah, I'm just going to delete that there. And a break even of 53 items. That's really tough to work with. So I could write a little paragraph there. Let's have a look at playing around with some of the figures then. So I know that from my market research, the customers who responded to it, I'm just getting this play button constantly. The customers who responded to it told me that they're quite willing to have £2 per item. So let's change that to 2. Actually, I'm going to refresh this. So 37.99, 0.77, and then 2. So 37.99, 0.77. And the reason I refresh the page is if I keep doing this, these adverts kind of bung over here. It might just be on my laptop, but if you refresh the page, it gives you a nice clean graph again. So every time you keep recalculating, these seem to just jump across. Bit of poor web design on Experian's part. So I up that sales price to 2 instead, and I calculate, and now I've got a break even of 31, because obviously this red line now is going up steeper. So if it's travelling up steeper, it's going to meet the total cost line a lot earlier on in terms of my sales. So there we go. So I only need to sell 31 items now as opposed to 53 because this red line now is steeper because the sale price per unit has been increased. Now, I need to be facing the prospect of either selling 53 at a cheaper price, which means more people might buy them, or 31 at a slightly steeper price, which means less people could possibly buy them. Is that a risk worth taking? Is it worth taking a risk of increasing the price of the product so I only have to sell 31, but then run the risk of maybe not selling as many and therefore not making a profit? Because remember, we need to be in this zone. We need to have gone past break even. We need to go past selling 31 in order to start making a profit. I think not. So let's look at another option. So I'm just going to run this again. 37 point. Oh, hang on. Let's so 0.77 is my variable cost, and I'll put back £1.50, which is my original price. Looking at the fixed costs now, I've got a blender on my fixed costs, which is £23.99. That is quite a steep price for a young enterprise project in a school. So how about I borrow the blender from food tech or from a parent instead of putting it down as a business expense? I'm going to keep the posters and the aprons in there, and let's see what happens if I remove the blender. So instead of having £37.99 for all of this, I'll put it down to £14 just for the aprons and the posters. So let's do that. Go back to the break-even calculator and just put 14 in. And calculate again. And now it's telling me I only need to sell 20, which is far more manageable. I could probably sell that within 1 or 2 days worth of trading. And then if we start looking, I can start producing a lot of revenue quite quick. When I get to 26 items or even 30 items, I'm already making a very tidy profit there. And that can go back into the business and meeting the business aims like increasing profit, growing the business, building up a customer base, all those kinds of things. Maybe diversifying my product because I've got lots of spare cash now from those sales I've made. So getting rid of the blender simply and borrowing it as part of the enterprise means I can now only need to sell 20 in order to break even. That means obviously covering my costs. So there you go, that's the break even chart. It's a really useful little tool to play around with, provided you've got workable figures like this. Obviously, one of the other options I could have gone through is just altering the price of the products, but that would mean looking at another supplier, maybe going for Lidl or Aldi. And would my customers like the quality of the fruit being produced there compared to Morrison's? Because Morrison's are pretty good with fruit, and all those factors need to be considered. But what's really great about a break-even calculator is once you've got your tables made up and you've got your research done, you can really start playing around with those figures and work out exactly what costs you're going to sell what price you're going to sell things for, what the costs to you need to be, and what costs you can really live without. Can you get rid of anything from your fixed costs or even your variable costs that are going to have a massive impact on the way your business runs? Okay, so that's break even. Thank you very much for watching. 10 minutes.